Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Drew Eccleston, and I'm the very proud faculty director of the Doctor of Education Leadership, or EDLD program at the Harvard Graduate School of Education. Before I begin my remarks, I want to spend a moment thanking and acknowledging the family, the friends, the loved ones, and the HGSE faculty who've gathered here today to acknowledge and honor our graduates. I also want to acknowledge and thank all the ancestors of our students upon whose shoulders they stand. Our graduates have made it here today in part because of your unconditional love and support. And I want to thank you for being a foundation for them as they persevered and moved through this program so successfully. But we're not here today to celebrate you. We're here to honor the 9th cohort of the EDLD program, who tomorrow will be conferred with a degree and the title of Doctor of Education Leadership. I wanted to spend a moment just explaining to the community how we will honor each student. Each student will be honored by a member of the HGSE and EDLD community that he, she, or they have selected to speak on their behalf. And I expect, given what I know about their work and my observation of them, particularly in their year as residency, that you're going to hear some reoccurring themes. Each story will be unique for sure. But as you learn about the contributions of each one of our graduates, I think some important themes will emerge. One, this is a cohort of students who has had tremendous impact. Our graduates had tremendous impact at a really specific moment when our communities, our families, our educators, and most importantly, our K-12 students needed their leadership the most. You will hear about their impact as 26 of them were out in practice leading in their residency sites. And no matter how difficult things seemed, especially given all that transpired in the last year, C9 always persevered. About a group of students who very explicitly have led for anti-racist practice. Our graduates never lost sight of the context in which they've led, that they were working intentionally in systems that all too often were designed to perpetuate racist practices. And our students work to be explicit about that and to replace those practices with student-centered and equity-based practices. You're also going to hear a story about collaboration. This is a cohort that leads by their values, and they believe at their core in the principles of inclusion and collaboration, and they've worked to model that in their leadership practice. It is true that the story of C9 is far greater than these three themes, but I know that these three themes will be represented in the reoccurring stories that you will hear today. Before I introduce our first speaker, I wanted to acknowledge two important individuals today. These are the students who will be identified as the class marshals. Class marshals are selected by members of our graduating class. And the criteria for a class marshal is someone who demonstrates consistently exemplary leadership, is involved in the community, fulfills the mission of the school and the university, and is deeply committed to public service. It is my honor to acknowledge Stephen A. Chambers and Shahara C. Jackson, who will represent the EDLD community as class marshals. We will begin by acknowledging them first. And so it's my honor to introduce my colleague and friend, Dr. Irvin Scott, who will speak first about the extraordinary contributions of Stephen A. Chambers. Please welcome Dr. Scott.
Thank you, Drew. What an honor, what an honor. What a joy it is to take a few minutes to speak on behalf of Stephen Chambers, a student, a colleague, a leader. I use each of these descriptors intentionally because over the past 3 years here at Harvard, I have seen Stephen embrace each one of these identities in a way that not only enabled him to grow and to don this doctoral robe today, but also enabled others, including myself, to be better in the process. Let me start with Stephen, the student. When Stephen came to Hugsy from Houston, Texas, he had already done amazing work as a committed educator, faith leader, and a passionate community activist and organizer. As a matter of fact, I remember some of our earlier conversations as we immediately connected around our common perspectives on faith. But even as we connected around what we had in common, I also heard in his voice, his demeanor, as well as his questions, a desire to learn as much as he could about leading education systems. Stephen, the colleague. In 2018, when this cohort arrived, I began working on the Leadership Institute for Faith and Education. The institute, which at the time had no staff, is an effort to bridge the gap between faith and education sector. All for the benefit, look at all those Steve, I see some Stephen fans joining him. All for the benefit of America's children. It was the fall of 2019 when Stephen, while juggling multiple projects, came to me and asked that coveted question that all entrepreneurs love to hear. How can I help? Wow. Then he proceeded to take on what some might seem like, what may seem to many as a menial task, but was critical to us at the time. He was the point person for setting up the catering that we needed for our annual convening. With a tight budget and an already busy schedule, he pulled it off without a hitch, and he was all in during the process. In other words, his heart was in it. Now, finally, Stephen as the leader. Stephen as the leader came through full force during his residency as he took on a critical senior level role during a worldwide pandemic in the largest school system in the country. So much of leadership is about getting things done in the middle of uncertainty. During his residency, Stephen worked with and led a team of district officials to stand up outdoor learning opportunities for the children of New York City. But what is key about this transformative work, is that Stephen was committed to designing and implementing these policies and programs with families who would eventually benefit from the effort. In the end, they got it done. To quote the Harvard Gazette, that did a feature story on Stephen's work in the New York Department of Education, and I quote, "When Stephen meets with various community stakeholders to direct resources to support learning in outdoor classrooms, what's at stake is not just health and safety of New York City's young people, but the ability of the city to care for and nurture the next generation through this crisis." As I close, I want to acknowledge that Stephen is a man of faith. And I applaud how he has lived out this identity, not as a way of seeking to esteem himself above others. As he said during his capstone defense, this part of his identity reminds him of the importance of serving others. Perhaps this explains why he can be all in on managing the catering for a small startup convening 1 year, and the next year he's leading a new initiative that has the potential to impact hundreds of thousands of students in the nation's largest school system. Servant leadership. As one of his cohort colleagues described him, he is a bridge builder, connecting people and power for the greater good of us all. In closing, when I asked Stephen who he would like to recognize for supporting him, he called out his parents, Van and Deborah Chambers, sister, brother, brother-in-law, and niece, Chanel, Michael, James, Hannah, and what he described is as my Ohio, Hampton, and Houston villages. Please help me recognize Dr. Stephen Chambers. Thank you.
It's my pleasure to honor Shahara Jackson. Shahara and I have been talking about words this year. So for this celebration of her many contributions and accomplishments, I thought I would offer her 3 words. The first word is grace. Grace is not what happens in a tumble from an unseen pothole while biking to class in Harvard Square. Grace is what comes next. Grace is waking up from the surgery to put your leg back together, being confronted with all that is ugly and unforgivable in this country, and meeting that ugly with a question and compassion. Grace is so part of who you are that it emerges even when you are in pain and still half under anesthesia. Grace is standing for dignity even when forces far beyond your control have knocked you off your feet. Grace is what you give so generously to others and what you have been learning to give yourself. Grace is acknowledging imperfection in others and even harder in ourselves and loving us anyway. Grace is noticing without fixing, naming without blaming, giving and receiving. Grace is holding multiple truths and walking in them. The second word is voice. Your voice is a gift from God, and I don't just mean your singing voice, which is unquestionably divine. Your voice inspires and contains multitudes. Voice is what you carry inside of you from the Black women who have inspired and encouraged you, including your grandmothers, Rathenia Jackson and Sunil McCall Williams, your great aunt, Anna Lua Lucas, your father's godmother, Mary Jameson Head, your aunts, Sonia McCall, Marcella Herring, and Betty Jean Jones, your mentor, Reverend Dr. Emma Jordan Simpson, your best friend, Barbara Owens, your sister, Tamara Britt, and your mother, Sarah Elizabeth Jane McCall Jackson. Voice is a choice. When do we speak? To whom? For whom? With whom? When I ask you how you are and you say, I'm in a land of gratitude leaning against a tree of grief, that is the voice of your heart and your friendship in this year. Voice is as much about listening as speaking. Voice is both sound and silence, full of the beauty and brilliance that has come before and resonates still. The third word is bridge. Bridge is about possibility, about moving from where we are to where we could be. Bridge is about building. Bridge is trust and trust, seen and unseen, span and spire. Bridge is Brooklyn, is Proctor, is president of the Harvard Black Graduate Student Alliance, is Boston Public Schools. Bridge is helping people move into the version of themselves they can't see yet. Bridge is simplicity on the other side of complexity. Bridge is coming home to yourself while traversing chasms. Walk victoriously, Shahara Camille Jackson. Congratulations. It is now my pleasure to turn it over to my colleague and friend, Karen Math.
Hello, everyone, and I am so honored to have been asked by Marissa Alberti to share a few remarks about her as she completes her EDLD degree. So I first met Marissa in 2013 while she was a master's student in the International Education Program. But because of the wonderful relationship that we developed during that year, I adopted her as one of my students in the EPM program. Sorry, Fernando. And I've been able to get to know and learn from her as a teaching fellow and then a friend. So Marissa has many strengths that I think are going to serve her well as she moves forward to be a sector leader. And I'm going to mention three that I most admire. The first is her steadiness during moments of chaos and her ability to focus on what's most important. I cannot tell you how many times when I was in a moment of panic, when Marissa was a TF for me, where she would just be slow and steady and calm and make everything okay. And I so value her for that. The second is her ability to listen with empathy and purpose. And evidence of this came through in the many wonderful comments that students wrote about her in their evaluations. And then finally, some of you may know this strength and talent that Marissa has, her use of color in terms of making sense of complicated things. So if you've ever seen any of Marissa's charts that she does, they are spectacular. Now, I have to say this, and this is going to make Marissa laugh. The only area of challenge that we've ever experienced between the two of us is that who will be the first to capture the attention of a certain Duke that we were introduced to during this pandemic year. Some of you may know what I'm talking about. Marissa would like to thank her capstone committee, Paul Revel, Monica Higgins, and Lynn Jennings. She would also like to thank some very special people in her life, her family, her parents, Kathy and Leon Alberti, her brothers, Matt and Nate Alberti, her sisters-in-law, Tracy and Melinda, and her nibblings, I love that term, her nieces and nephews, Nicholas, Anastasia, Jayella, and Sage. In closing, I asked Marissa to answer a question for me. I asked her to tell me, how do you want the world to be different because you are in it? And this is what she said. I hope everyone I encounter feels loved and accepted, and that humanity is kinder, more compassionate, and just. I work to build a world where people are connected to themselves, their communities, and the universe. And those connections bring about equity, justice, truth, and peace. From the bottom of my heart, I congratulate you, Dr. Marissa Alberti. And now I'd like to introduce Kentaro Iwasaki, who will share remarks about Talhita Baker-Jones.
Hello, I'm a colleague of Talhita's, and I've had the great privilege of overlapping with her a ton during our program. And I want to launch in with a story that I think will give you a glimpse of who she is. So we took a class together in our second year at the Harvard Business School. So if you can imagine this, it's a class with 100 hard-charging business school students, all in their 20s, all seeming to gun to become CEO of Goldman Sachs. And the professors there cold call, which means they just call on any student anytime to give an answer. So the professor turns to Talhita and fires a question at her about a case we just read. Talhita, what grade would you give this leader? And without flinching, Talhita answers, a C. And the professor's a little surprised. Wow, don't you think that's a little low? And Talhita goes on to describe that though this leader did do some things right, he could definitely improve on this, that, and the other thing. And this to me is Talhita with such high standards for herself, first and foremost, for others around her. And she will do all she can to help you reach those high standards for the education system she serves, and she will work tirelessly hard until the education system is where it needs to be. So I have many stories to share about Talhita, but I want to share this space with so many others who have these words for you, Talhita. Your professors have said this about you. Her voice summoned her peers to listen, reflect, and perhaps ask a bit more of themselves. She's courageous, passionate, and leads with her heart and soul in designing a new course called Equity in Action in School Systems, and co-wrote a published paper circulated nationally through Harvard's Public Education Leadership Project. Bold, unpredictable, willing to challenge convention and the academic wisdom. Direct and honest, you can count on her to tell it like it is. And your peers, Talhita, they said this, you are an unapologetic equity warrior, commitment to your personal growth of others and yourself. You have a love for your community. And I think it's one thing to hear someone speak about what they believe in. It's a totally different thing to see someone live it. There have been so much that you have faced in this field and in your personal life. I can see how you take those experiences, those feelings, acknowledge them, and leverage it all to push you for what you believe in, which is an inspiration. And finally, Talhita, your love, Damon, says how much he admires your sense of purpose, your drive, how principled you are, how selfless you have been in all things with your family, with your community, with all of us, Talhita. And he's happy for the influence of Heifetz in your marriage. So Talhita, we love you. We will continue to cheer you on for all the amazing things we know you will do in Atlanta and in this world. We love you, Talhita. And now I pass this over back to Liz City, who will speak about Eric Becerra.
I start this celebration with gratitude because that is where Eric Becerra begins. Eric agradece a sus padres por modelar el trabajo arduo, la humildad, el sacrificio, un espíritu de superación personal, and grateful to his children for their unconditional love, giving his life meaning, direction, and a much clearer sense of purpose. Eric agradece a su abuelita chata porque nunca se ha rajado enfrentado adversidades, and to previous generations for providing firm shoulders to stand on. He thanks his partner, Abby, for walking alongside him through this journey and constantly pushing him to be the best version of himself. La sabiduría viene de muchas formas y se gana de muchas formas también. Hoy honoramos una ganancia construida sobre la sabiduría de generaciones. Eric thinks in circles, but he never puts himself at the center. He respects what has been offered and then invites you to think about it a slightly different and often much better way. This is quite a gift to honor what has come before while making it better. It requires a certain mix of respect and irreverence. Eric's capstone was aptly titled Success by Design, because he knows that success does not come just because you are talented and hardworking, or because well-intended people see your potential. For too many people, success comes in spite of. Eric wants to create pathways, particularly for young men of color, to succeed because of their greatness, because of where they come from, because of who they are. Y así, con sus colegas de Long Beach City College, desarrolló una iniciativa de superación y éxito para estudiantes varones que hizo que esos jóvenes de color sintieran que pertenecían a algo poderoso, completo y colectivo, que no estaban solos y que podían tener éxito en la universidad. Eric has a playfulness about him that surrounds a serious center. Last year, he asked me if I would be his capstoner, which was by far the most interesting way a student has asked me to support their doctoral work. Eric, I am indeed your capstoner for life, which means I accept the opportunity to continue to learn with you. Leadership is a series of circles, of giving and receiving, of returning to your roots and growing dreams and lives from fertile dirt worked with callous hands and strong hearts. Leadership is honoring the boots and the roots and bringing others along with you in your journey. Eric, hoy honoramos el amor y el legado de tus antepasados. Honoramos lo que has hecho con eso y lo que harás también. I will end with the word with which Eric signs all his emails. It is a word from the Aztec language, Nahuatl. It means onward. Eric, felicitaciones y te awi. Please join me in congratulating Eric Becerra. And with that, I will turn it over to my colleague, Karen Mapp, who will celebrate Eyal Bergman.
Thank you so much, Liz. So can everyone hear me? Okay, great. I'm getting all these wonderful little Zoom messages that we've all gotten to know and love over the past year. So I am honored to have been asked by Eyal to share a few remarks about him as he completes his ED-LD degree. I was a member of Eyal's capstone committee, along with Almi Abeta, and Jal Mehta, and I share this moment of congratulations with them. Now, I also met Eyal the same year I met Marissa, and that was in 2013 when he was a master's student at HGSE. And it did not take me long to recognize that Eyal was destined to become a force in the field of family and community engagement. His determination and passion for the work to disrupt and transform education systems so that they embrace and recognize all families, and, as in the words of Shante Toole, that they embrace them as the geniuses that they are. Eyal's passion and determination for this is infectious and impactful. Now, I am blessed in that Eyal has been another one of my fabulous teaching fellows, And also that he and I have worked together on many projects, including the co-authorship of the dual capacity building framework for family school partnerships. And I really hope that we will continue to work together on many projects in the future. And in working with Ayal, here are some things that I've learned about him that I most admire about him. First of all is something I will call his gracious determination. And the reason why I call it gracious determination is that I'm sure some of you know many people whose determination can be at times a bit obnoxious, but that is not the case with Ayal. His determination, he's focused, but he's gracious about it. He draws you in. I also so much admire his optimism. He will probably share with you that sometimes when we're working together, I'm the one who gets cynical, or I'm the one who gets discouraged. And I can tell you that he always lifts me up. Whenever I get off the phone with Ayal or a Zoom call, I actually always feel a lot better and get back on my feet. So I am so grateful to him for that optimism. And then last but not least, his commitment to justice and equity. And this is absolutely all reflected in his answer to my question about how he wants the world to be different because he's in it. He simply said, I just hope I can do my part to make this world a little more just and fair. And if I can contribute to more kindness and laughter, all the better. Ayal would like to share some words of thanks to a few very special people who have helped make this day possible. He says, to my parents, Inez, Marcelo, Monica, and Fernando, the world seems full of endless possibilities because you have always believed in me. This life I live, this achievement, it is possible because of your love. And then he says to my wife, Jess, and that lovely daughter, Lina, you make my home the place I want to be. I love you so much. Ayal, I so value our friendship and look forward to our work together. And before I start crying, I'm going to say congratulations, Dr. Bergman. And now I'm going to introduce Kevin Bryan, who is going to share his remarks about Hassan Brown.
It's with great pride that I speak about Hassan Brown, who I call a colleague and a friend. Once I was notified to provide words for Hassan, I was first humbled, yet inquisitive. And I sent a thank you to Hassan for thinking of me and asked the question, why me? In Hassan's straightforward message, he said 5 words. It was an easy choice. Over these 3 years, I've learned so much about Hassan, and I also know things were not an easy choice for Hassan as well. Hassan could have easily gone down a different path or a more familiar narrative associated with the demise of Black boys and men. At a young age, the odds were not in his favor to be where he is today, but Hassan's innate ability to be the best, his connection to his roots, and his support system created undeniable forces that could not and will not be broken. Hassan's upbringing and foundation fostered a passion for examining and increasing awareness in the intersectionality between philanthropy, education, and the criminal justice system, all accord to who he is as an educator, his residency at New Prophet, and his future work as Dr. Hassan Brown. In conversations with Hassan, you know very quickly the impact of his HBCU, Morehouse College, and Harvard University has had on his continuous growth to become a better man, husband, educator, and future father to ensure Black excellence persists and overshadows any negative narratives about the Black community. Hassan is unapologetically Black, unapologetically Caribbean, unashamed of being a Black male, lives and breathes hip hop, and is Brooklyn to the core. Hassan showcases his love for the aforementioned in his own way. You may catch him wearing a pair of Jordans with a suit, wearing a Brooklyn hat to a board meeting, or a pro-Black shirt in a predominantly white space. Hassan is allergic to the status quo. Hassan walks into every room with his head held high, with confidence and poise. Over these 3 years, I've shared so many moments together with Hassan as we traveled across the world. We developed a virtual reality company. We taught courses together. We were co-panelists and just hang out with him and his wife, Crystal. And each interaction, I continue to be in awe of his brilliance, his humility, and his candor. This journey to graduation and becoming Dr. Hassan Brown, the young kid from Brooklyn, is not his journey alone. He is conscious of his tribe and their power to ensure his success and the irrefutable influence on the next generation. For his tribe, supporting Hassan too was an easy choice. So many of the next generation of leaders and scholars are in a better place and will stand on Hassan's shoulders to continue the work, to challenge the status quo, and to get into good trouble, to open doors and create pathways for success for the culture. Hassan continues to stand on the shoulders of giants himself. He wants to recognize his personal giants: Tia, Uncle Andy, Crystal, Aunt Hazel, V and Uncle Tone, his Morehouse brothers, his Brooklyn crew, his Oakland crew, his Sankofa crew, his EDLD family, faith community, family and friends, and his living and past ancestors. Hassan thanks each of you. It is because of you, Dr. Hassan Brown is here, a graduate of Harvard University. It is through your support and guidance that we, as Cohort 9, have experienced each of you through our friendship and experience with Hassan. Although we may not have met formally, Hassan embodies each of you in his day-to-day interactions. In closing, I would like to congratulate Dr. Hassan Brown again on this accomplishment. It is well-deserved, earned, and was an easy choice for Harvard. Congratulations, and I would like to pass the microphone over to my advisor and mentor, Deborah Jewel Sherman.
Thank you, Kevin. I am honored and pleased to acknowledge the stellar achievement of Kevin Bryant. Mark Twain said, "The two most important days in your life are the day you are born and the day you discover why." Kevin arrived at HGSE knowing his why, his educational and leadership purpose. So it surprises no one that I found Kevin to be impressive from the very first moment we met. His serious and dignified demeanor was sporadically complemented by his winning smile and his wry sense of humor. Certainly the work that he'd done so successfully as a principal in the New York City Department of Education prepared him well for the EDLD experience. And he took advantage and maximized every learning opportunity while here. He entered with knowledge and sought to transform it into the wisdom to know what to do and why to do it and how to do it to make the work count. He came with a heart honed on the needs of all students, with a focus on the special needs of Black and Brown students. And he transformed that heartfelt commitment into compassion for all who partner with schools and districts to be part of the solution. And he translated his innate desire to make a difference to courageous actions in his daily leadership walk, all throughout the university and beyond. He certainly brought this wisdom, compassion, and courage to his residency at the College Board, where he helped elevate the skills, attributes, and habits of mind of Black and Brown leaders who are underrepresented in the highest echelons of the College Board. He helped highlight the need for more diversity and empowered the College Board with a roadmap to change. Well done, Kevin. And now he has embarked upon his newest endeavor with the New York Center for Supporting Schools, where he serves as executive director. It was such an honor and a privilege to talk to the committee when they asked for a recommendation. I told them, Kevin, that this was the best hire that they would ever make. And I know that that is going to be true. Kudos, Kevin, on completing your EDLG journey with wisdom, compassion, and courage. I wish you continued success in your personal and professional life as you model what it looks like to be a proud Black man who loves his wife, the fabulous dear Bryan, who cherishes his children, Corey and Kensley, and who embraces beloved family and friends, especially Ross Bryan, Kenneth Bryan, and Terry Birch, in whose memory Kevin dedicates this degree. Kevin, 2 words of advice: continue to get into good, fabulous trouble. No one does it better and with as much style as you do. And continue to fix that face. I love you. And now I'll turn it over to Paul Revel.
I am honored to present Danila Crespin Zadowski, who is joined today by her beloved husband, Matt, and their daughter, Franny, as well as her mother and many members of her extended family, to whom she is deeply grateful. The first thing to know about Danila is that she's a proud native of New Mexico, the land of enchantment and sunshine, qualities that Danila also embodies. She's a first-generation Mexican-American whose family enabled her to triumph over many obstacles and become an accomplished educational leader. She came to EDLD with an amazingly broad background, having taught in the US and South Korea, worked for a member of Congress, earned a master's degree in public administration, served on numerous boards and staffed a variety of nonprofits, from those focused on Hispanic culture to early childhood to ed policy to social justice. She's a veteran of many political campaigns and is truly one of the most well-rounded students ever admitted to our program. Danila's life experience provided her with a natural basis for commitment to equity and improved education for children facing the many challenges of poverty, immigration, language barriers, and inadequate supports and opportunities. She has dedicated her life to this work and cleverly learned to approach it from many different angles, from politics to instruction to the provision of social services to early childhood education. Danila became my advisee along the way in her EDLD journey as we shared interest in government and politics. I first met her when she came to discuss a project to diversify the nation's local school boards, and was able to recruit her to become a gifted teaching fellow in my state policy course, where she was an exceptional teaching partner. The students loved her because Danila has a warmth, openness, and responsiveness that easily connects her with people of all kinds. She is simultaneously a seriously substantive and charming person. She also came to work for our team at Ed Redesign, where she co-authored a very important paper on bringing an equity lens to collaborative action. Danila returned home for residency, working for the New Mexico Schools Chief and EDLD graduate, Secretary Ryan Stewart. Danila was charged with remotely leading an initiative to shift the agency's organizational culture, develop a leadership philosophy, and design professional development for administrators. Her work ranged from employee recognition details to clarifying the department's values and activating them in strategies for nurturing leadership. While the work involved complex matters of strategy, organizational change, management, teaming, and psychological safety, in the end, it all came down to people. Here's how Danila summed it up in her sterling capstone when describing the challenges of supporting people doing difficult work under difficult circumstances. I learned that people hold all the solutions if you just listen to them. Danila's next chapter involves leaving the sunny Southwest and relocating to Burlington, Vermont in the frozen Northeast. She will soon be joining HGSE's own Zantz initiative as a senior policy and leadership specialist. This major change in the arc of her flexible family wasn't an easy decision, but opportunity beckons. She will bring the light of her experience and wisdom to Zantz, while simultaneously her warmth will make spring come a little earlier in Vermont, and her formidable interpersonal skills will earn her a wide array of friends and colleagues wherever she goes. Next Vermont Secretary of Education, I'm just saying. In any event, we are all enormously proud of her. Felicidades, Danila. And I will bring our own beloved List City back up for an introduction of Matt Dreyer.
Thank you, Paul. Matt Dreyer. Matt is humble, loyal, and curious. He is also, I believe, the first EDLD graduate who is a military veteran. Matt served as an active duty Marine for 21 years, retiring as a lieutenant colonel upon joining the EDLD program. Matt, we thank you for your first career of service as we celebrate this beginning of your second career of service. And to Matt's wife, Tammy, and son, Jake, Matt is deeply grateful to you for supporting him and for adding 2 more moves to your extensive portfolio. While Matt originally trained to be a teacher in college, his life pathway has taken him many places, including Japan, the Philippines, and Iraq. He has lived his interest in education as a leader, developing military personnel, both in the field and in the classroom, in high stakes and complex contexts. Matt has spent his time in the EDLD program learning about a different sort of high stakes, complex context, US pre-K-12 education, and also learning how to bring his vast and deep experience to education. At first, Matt was very quiet about sharing his perspective from the military, choosing instead to listen and learn from colleagues with deeper pre-K-12 experience. But I have always been convinced that there was something the rest of us could learn from him. And over time, he has learned to integrate what he knows and what he values with the problems and possibilities we face in education. Last spring, as a leader, I was wrestling with some questions about how to lead through what was clearly going to be a long-haul crisis of the COVID pandemic. I asked Matt how the military would deal with it, for which he had some very wise advice on having one team manage through the crisis while another focused on longer-term strategy. What was striking to me in the conversation was how Matt could distill what was useful and relevant from his experience, name what might be too different to be helpful, and help me apply it to my own context. This year, he was in residency in the Virginia Department of Education, where he had the sometimes ambiguous and always challenging role of trying to help a State Department of Education be both accountability and support to districts and schools. Matt returned continually to the question of how he could be most helpful this year. He brought his mix of steady, pragmatic leadership with a willingness to adapt, and always with a focus on respecting and developing people, a combination that served the State Department of Education well. Matt has learned some things in the EDLD program. He is now using words like adaptive and psychological safety and deliberately developmental, and has all sorts of new acronyms. Sometimes he has found education more bureaucratic than the military. He has also found that a different kind of courage is required if you are serious about addressing inequities. Matt demonstrates this courage, the courage to speak up, to reframe, to stand solid in his values, to step up and also to step back, to both wield and yield power with intention and clarity. Matt, I am grateful for your service, grateful that you have chosen education for your next chapter, and eager to see who will benefit from your leadership in the coming years. Congratulations. And now it's my pleasure to turn it over to Mandy Savitz-Romer.
Thank you, Liz. It is my honor to speak on behalf of Danielle Duarte today. I had the great pleasure of supporting Danielle on her capstone, along with Jennifer Cheatham and Laura Darden. And today I feel immense joy and pride watching you, Danielle, as you graduate and celebrate this incredible accomplishment. Many of you may know Danielle began her career as an elementary school counselor and later a counseling coordinator. But very early on, Danielle earned a reputation as a leader in California's school counseling community, eventually becoming the president of the state's professional organization. When I initially met Danielle, it was actually here at HGSE, long before she even considered the EDLD program. She was here for a White House convening focused on school counseling. It was if while you were here, you dropped some breadcrumbs along the way because you knew you'd be back in some fashion. And I know I join others when I say we're really glad you did. Danielle did make her way back to HGSE because she believed that ensuring all students have access to high quality systems of support means that we need to strengthen and leverage the counseling systems already in place in our country. Since arriving, however, she has taken that belief to new levels, challenging herself to see the broader implications and reform that's needed to truly be leveraging counseling in a positive way for all students. She embraces any and all opportunities to learn about the various forces at play that create inefficiencies or restrict educational opportunities for students. One of the things I most appreciate about Danielle is that she is quick and often correct to challenge her peers and colleagues when discussions on topics such as college and career readiness, social emotional supports, or mental health leave out the professionals primarily charged with that work. I admire her leadership in this area, not just because she is an ardent advocate of the profession or of student support models in general, but also because of the ways that leadership benefited so many of our master's students at HGSE. As a teaching fellow for the Advanced Counseling Practicum with me, she shared generously with our students, and she modeled for them what leadership looks like in our profession. And for that, I remain eternally grateful. You may have been the first EDLD student with a school counseling background, but I am certain you for sure won't be the last. Over the last year, many of us have marveled in your ability to gracefully manage many things. Note, I did not say balance, I said manage. You managed a lot in this past year, and a very difficult one at that. You completed your residency at Round Rock Independent District, tackling a critically important topic, racial inequities in advanced college-going coursework. You completed your capstone, a beautifully written account of your learning, your contributions to Round Rock, and powerful suggestions for the field, notably suggesting that if school districts will have advanced coursework opportunities in our schools, the process for identifying and supporting students must be equitable and racially just, but also encouraging all of us to consider the value of such advanced opportunities at all. All the while, you did these things continuing to give to your family, your EDLD community, HGSE, and the broader school counseling profession. As if producing a capstone weren't hard enough, Danielle, ever the overachiever, also brought a beautiful baby girl into the world this year, baby Esme. In all of her work, Danielle is committed to ensuring that all students have access to educational opportunities. This dedication to educational justice has been shaped by her own personal experiences, but it's also been bolstered by her willingness to listen, ask questions, and give so much of herself. She's a true counselor at heart, and believe me, she has a huge heart. While I'm not sure of her exact superpower, I do know that she's had some help. Her husband, Ian, has been an incredible source of support and critical in her ability to accomplish this very important goal this year. We appreciate that Ian assumed extra family duties so Danielle could work on her capstone, but we also appreciate him for loving Danielle and the work that she cares so deeply about. And Esme, while a beautiful baby girl could serve as a distraction, I suspect this love equally served as inspiration. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge and appreciate Danielle's mom, Connie, her brothers, Dennis and David. Even from afar, your support and belief in Danielle has bolstered her when she needed it most. And most especially, we honor and remember David Duarte, Danielle's beloved father, who I know was with you every step of your journey and whose passing in your first year took the wind out of your sails. I have no doubt he is rejoicing today, and I know his love will carry forward in your work and in your own family. To the entire Duarte family, thank you for sharing Danielle with us. We are truly grateful for you, Danielle. You bring so much love, enthusiasm, and passion to your work and to your relationships. We look forward to what comes next. I know you're unsure of what that will be right now, but remember, greatness has never been rushed, and we have no doubt, my dear, that you will do great things. Congratulations, Dr. Duarte. We're so proud of you. And now it is my pleasure to introduce my colleague, Lisa Leahy, who will celebrate Amanda Dudley.
Amanda, it's beautiful to see you here. What I so appreciate about you, Amanda, is that you use your mighty strengths, your very big, generous heart, thoughtfulness and intentionality, your openness to learning and being vulnerable in the process, your humility. This is just to name a few. You use these all on behalf of serving others. How wonderful it was that you chose a residency that was right up your alley, given your intent to expand impact through leadership development and culture change work. You chose Principal Impact Collaborative, an organization focused on transformative learning experiences for principals in Dallas, Fort Worth. And there you led a bold project, in short, leading an internal initiative to create a culture of learning to support the organization's rapid growth while honoring and respecting the individuals doing the work. This is extremely challenging work under any conditions. It requires people to take risks, be uncomfortable, and be vulnerable. Who could have imagined this could be done over Zoom? Leave it to you, Amanda. Kudos to you for succeeding there despite the pandemic and raising your two young children, one of them a newborn. I'd like you to listen to the difference that you made for people there. And I'll start with Alejandra's words, the executive director there. Amanda led PIC with grace, compassion, and rigor. She inspired me to be a more intentional leader and gave me critical thought partnership when I needed it most. And from others on your team, Amanda's support has been nothing short of amazing in helping to redefine our team culture and what holistic well-being looks like at work. And from another, Amanda's passion for designing equitable schools, for empowering women leaders, and for boldly redefining our public schools is inspiring. And last, Amanda's work has truly shifted the culture of our team, creating more space for us to truly show up authentically and inspire growth within ourselves and each other. She has modeled this fearlessly and vulnerably and brings so much joy to our team. There are so many people who do leadership development work, but you, Amanda, you model leadership development by embracing the reality that doing leadership development requires you to walk the talk every step of the way. I see how you've grown in holding yourself accountable to being the learner you ask others to be. This is one of your emerging superpowers, learning how to be, quote unquote, be the change you want to see in the world. Congratulations, Dr. Dudley. And I'd like to pass the mic to Kathy Boudet.
I am so honored to offer a tribute today for Crystal Harris. Crystal would like to thank her ma, Deborah, her sisters, Michelle, Jessie, and Lauren, her nieces and her nephews, and her aunts and uncles, Aunt Tracy, Aunt Joe, Aunt Thelma, Uncle Daryl. And she extends a very special dedication to her Aunt Denise, whom she is so grateful to have been able to spend time with in New York in recent days. She asked me to make sure that you all know that she acknowledges, and I quote, "I am who I am because of you, as well as other loved ones who have come and gone." So Crystal, oh, and here's one of those loved ones right there on your lap. I love how much you value the gifts from your family, but I realize that I've never had a chance to ask you about their very first gift to you, which is of course your name. Why did your family name you Crystal? And so today I'm going to offer 3 possible theories of action that your family might have had in mind as they named you. The first I'm going to call my clarity theory. Maybe your family thought to themselves, if we name our child Crystal, then she will have clarity of purpose and be able to achieve great things. And my evidence in support of this theory comes from before you even set foot on Harvard's campus. When you came to us, you had already demonstrated an incredible dedication to your purpose of supporting each student. As a founding middle school teacher in the Bronx, as the developer in New York City of the first teacher residency program, as the leader of an effort to recruit and retain male teachers of colors, your professional life has always been characterized by a crystal clear purpose. But perhaps it's actually the second theory, which is my strength theory. Maybe your family thought, if we name our child Crystal, then she will have strength to tackle hard challenges. My evidence comes from watching you solve hard problems for real people in your first 2 years of our program. With your classmates, you developed not 1, but 2 organizations. And as a DataWise coach, you rolled up your sleeves and you worked alongside educators from Washington and Vermont, determined to help them shift to a more inclusive and evidence-based culture, as challenging as that may be. My final hypothesis, I'm going to call my theory, and I'm thinking maybe your family was imagining, if we name our child Crystal, then she will feel empowered to shine like a diamond, taking in the light of others and reflecting it back in a way that makes everyone better. My evidence for this, your residency at the New Schools Venture Fund. Your capstone was titled, "It Takes a Team, an Intentional Approach to Increasing Black and Latino Innovators in the New Schools Portfolio." You brought together educators from around the organization, leaders from around the organization. You created a structure in which you were able to honor and reflect their light to one another so that you all could make progress on an important problem. The New School president saw your brilliance, and I'm so excited to think of you continuing to shine your light there next year. So I return to the question for your adoring family. Which of the theories is correct? Was the name intended to give you clarity or strength or brilliance? It seems that clearly you embody all three. Congratulations, Dr. Crystal S. Harris. And it is now my pleasure to introduce my colleague, Jal Mehta.
Thanks, Kathy. I have the great honor of presenting Kentaro Iwasaki. Kentaro would like to thank his wife, Sabrina, his children, Kai and Mia, and the many members of his family, teachers, and mentors who have helped him get to this stage today. We would both like to thank Paul Revel, the invaluable additional member of Kentaro's committee. Kentaro is a highly skilled equity leader, as we've already seen today, a highly gifted and moving speaker, and a fabulous colleague and friend. But I'm going to start with the equity leader. Mobilizing for equity is really hard. We have a baked-in school system which is more than a century old that was organized for and perpetuates inequity. To change that, you need to change people's beliefs, you need to change their practices, and the hardest trick of all, you have to make people feel like it was their idea in the first place. Taro is a magician in how effortlessly he pulls all that together and is a national resource when it comes to leading for mathematical equity. Let me tell you a little about his capstone project. Kentaro is working in Somerville, a highly diverse space full of students of varying backgrounds. Kentaro is in charge of moving the district toward greater equity in math. He convenes two groups, a group of math teachers, of which he himself is a highly skilled member of that tribe, and we all know that math teachers only respond to fellow math teachers, and a group of district administrators who need to support the change. Despite being entirely virtual, sitting in his friend's beautiful house in Provincetown, Rhode Island, in Provincetown, Cape Cod, Kentaro built trust and credibility with both groups and gently led them on an examination of their views about math, about students' abilities, and what they might want to revisit. And within only about 4 months, these groups are moving. The math teachers are revisiting how they try to place students into advanced classes, and the administrator group is thinking about how they will respond to parents who are unhappy with more mixed math groupings. And when I talked to the superintendent about the work, she says that only Kentaro could have led this kind of change. And I think she's right. How many people in the country have the mix of deep content knowledge in math, facility with systems thinking and organizational change, and just the right touch, what Michael Fullen calls nuance, to bring together different stakeholders and get them moving? I think Kentaro has a particular gift in this arena, and I think he can become, if he isn't already, a national leader in the movement for math equity. For all of that, none of that is why Kentaro has such a special place in my heart. Despite his many talents, as everyone who knows him knows, he is so humble, so respectful, so curious. Someone raised him right. We've had so many great conversations over the years, including the complexities of what it means to be an Asian American leader in the educational space. He and his wife Sabrina have made food for our family, something which I hope we can reciprocate. I hope the past 3 years have been just the beginning of a much longer relationship. Congratulations, Dr. Kentaro Iwasaki. And now I'd like to pass it to my friend and colleague, Irvin Scott, to talk about Lesley Jimenez.
Thank you, Jal. It is my honor to celebrate Lesley Jimenez's work and contributions here at Harvard, as well as in Cambridge Public Schools. As with all of these great leaders in Cohort 9, which we are hearing, Lesley entered the EDLD program having accomplished quite a bit. At the same time, what was so apparent to me during her time here as her advisor is that she is a lifelong learner, for sure. Those of us who know Lesley or have had conversations with her, we can tell from her engagement, her posture, her follow-up questions, that she's taking it all in. As her advisor, I can say that Lesley has a unique ability that she is either blessed with or has honed over time, perhaps some combination. And that is, she has a way of repeating and synthesizing my counsel and reflections to her in a way that makes me feel brilliant. I sometimes come away thinking, did I really say it that well? Was I really that coherent? It's just a unique gift that she has. As I mentioned earlier, Leslie came to Harvard having been an accomplished educator. She oversaw the accountability of 35 charter schools, authorized by the district in Oakland, California, by evaluating each school's educational programming and leadership and governance capacity on an annual basis. She managed the Proposition 39 process and helped develop the strategy for allocating district facilities to charter schools. Anyone who knows that particular challenge knows that it's fraught with a lot of difficulty and conflict. Leslie was brilliant at it. During her time here at HGSE, Leslie not only soaked up the learning in classes and in our one-on-ones, but she also made contributions to the community. When I was looking for a teaching fellow for my real course, Leslie co-designed and taught the real race, equity, and leadership module, a core component of our Harvard School Leadership Program. She facilitated 2 teams during our Professional Education's Turnaround Leaders Program. She even sought out opportunities to learn on her own outside of those classes. I had the privilege of working with her on an independent study project where she shadowed or interviewed over 15 diverse leaders in education, including professors, directors, chancellors, superintendents, and chief executive officers, and created an internal report highlighting best practices in equity-based instructional leadership. I want to repeat that. Best practices in equity-based instructional leadership. To culminate her 3 years here at Harvard, Leslie worked side by side as special assistant to the superintendent in Cambridge Public Schools, our friend and colleague, Kenny Saleens. In this work, she led the strategic planning and the development of anti-racism professional development, including monthly sessions for approximately 60 schools and district leaders. She led a team of 14 school and district leaders to help facilitate communities of practice. She partnered with over 200 stakeholders across the city, including students, teachers, and caregivers, and school and district leaders to co-create an anti-racist leadership look-for's tool. In my view, this look-for's tool is groundbreaking and has the potential to spread to many other school systems across the country. This is truly remarkable work that she led in Cambridge Public Schools. Finally, as we celebrate Leslie, she wanted me to emphasize and elevate the importance of her family to her. In order for her to be here, she could have not done it without them. And she named special people, family, friends, and former students also. And she named Miama, Gemma, Niapa, Alfredo, her brothers and sisters, Alfredin, Dario, Celi, Henry, to all of her nieces and nephews. Too many names to share, she said, but especially Ulysses, Isabella, Jeremiah, and Elijah, and to her partner, Roberto. She says, thank you to you all for your unconditional love and support. She would also like to give a special thank you to Superintendent Salim and also Dr. Jen Cheatham for being a part of her committee. And she wants to acknowledge Cambridge Public School District staff, school leaders, educators, caregivers, students, and especially the Anti-Racism Professional Learning Planning Team. And she gives a shout out to her EDLD Cohort 9, the Transformers, her Workplace Lab Group, and her pod and her rides team. And finally, her mentors, Chang, Dan, and Luz. Let's celebrate Dr. Leslie Jimenez. Congratulations. I would now like to introduce my colleague, Jen Cheatham, who will be speaking on behalf of Erica Jordan Thomas, AKA EJT.
I am thrilled to acknowledge Erica Jordan Thomas. Erica showed up at HGSE with some formidable skills. A former teacher, instructional coach, assistant principal. She had instructional chops and leadership capability, and she was well positioned to keep climbing up that school district ladder. But she was extremely dissatisfied by the systems in which she had been working, systems that she could see were making it difficult, if not impossible, for teachers and school leaders, especially leaders of color, to thrive and do their best work. It could be so exhausting as advocating, risk-taking, even covert action to address inequality in schools required so much energy. She knew there had to be a better way. So Erica spent her time at HGSE interrogating her experience, finding language to better describe it, and building the skills and ability to envision and design a different experience. She did this through her coursework, through her teaching fellowship positions, through her independent study, through her residency, through her writing, and through her coaching. I had the great pleasure of working with Erica on the design of a new course focused on a provocative idea. What would it actually take to put an explicit racial equity agenda into action in school systems? She helped me develop it from the ground up. A course designed to push our thinking about what's possible, drawing on the best of what we do, and unapologetically challenging the status quo. One of the design principles for the course, one that Erica proposed, was that it would be both intellectually and interpersonally rigorous. And working with Erica was just that. She also insisted that we find joy in our work together, and we did. Maya Angelou, who signs her books with the inscription "Joy!" once said, "Each of us can make choices. We're not blown around willy-nilly. I always choose joy." Erica writes a similar inscription into everything she does. Her time here at HGSE has been defined, inscribed by her relentless curiosity, learning how to say yes and expand possibilities, her insistence on joy, learning how to let go of the things that drain us and drag us down, and her search for purpose in this sector, which is for now about building the capacity of others to lead for racial equity. She has learned during her time at HGSE not just about what we need to do, but who we need to be for ourselves and one another. Erica asked me to thank her mother, Dr. Freddie Jordan, her partner, Anthony Harris, and her brother and aunts who are here to celebrate this achievement with her today. Erica, you prompted me to open up my copy of Eat, Pray, Love this weekend as I thought about what miraculous things are coming in your next chapter. And the first line I saw, one I underlined in 2006, said, "I take the time every morning to search myself for specificity about what I am truly asking for." So go get it, Dr. Jordan Thomas. You deserve precisely what you are asking for, an opportunity to make a real contribution in the fight for racial and social justice on your own terms. Thank you for coming into my life and making me and all of us better leaders. Congratulations, Dr. EJT. At this point, I'd like to introduce my colleague, Bob Goodman.
Hello. I am deeply honored and excited to speak about Mark Caban and to acknowledge the abiding support of his mother, Nawal, father, Tony, sisters, Victoria and Rianne, and brothers, Victor and Richard. Indeed, a proud day for the family. Mark was born in this country after his parents escaped the war in Lebanon. Mark's uncle, Dr. Habib Antoun, stayed behind to care for the wounded and needy. Sadly, he lost his life. But his act of courage made a lasting impression on Mark, who carries forward his uncle's deep love for humanity. Mark's family moved to Beirut, but eventually returned to San Diego. These were challenging times for the family. Mark learned many key lessons. You never say no. You imagine the impossible to be possible. You work extra hard, and you always maintain your dignity. Mark worked as a refugee case manager after college and established Yala San Diego, a nonprofit educational organization and football club for refugee and immigrant youth at the tender age of 23. First to come were Iraqi refugees, then kids came streaming in from all over the globe. Yala became a rainbow. As executive director of Yala, Mark designed K-12 academic programs for 250 scholar athletes. Then Mark had a very big aha. These multilingual kids who came to school silent and disengaged were the same highly capable children who helped their parents set up the internet and adeptly interface with the mainstream culture. This led Mark to Mark's foundational belief: each child is brilliant. And if we don't see it, we need to look again. Mark chose the Center for Love and Justice at High Tech High's Graduate School of Education as his residency. Fitting for someone who believes strongly in the power of love, infused with the ferocious sense of social justice. His strategic project, Work That Matters, activating student voice to co-design anti-racist schools, helped teachers move from a prescriptive educational model with them as expert to a pedagogy that positions teachers and students as partners. Let's pause on this for 1 second. Grasp the enormity of that effort. It is bold. The work required leadership that is patient and discerning about when to support and when to challenge. Mark developed these competencies precisely because he engaged in his own intensive leadership journey of reflection, deepened self-awareness, and a profound understanding of his emotions. I deeply admire how he rolled up his sleeves to do this very hard work. Mark, you are a champion of the underdog and the oppressed. I know you will continue to shine a light on all children so they feel proud of who they are, no matter what mainstream waters they may be swimming in. Congratulations on being hired as the co-director of the Master's Leadership Program at the Graduate School of Education of High Tech High. Apparently you made quite the impression. Friend, colleague, learner, disruptor, teacher, gardener, and embroiderer. We proudly hail your achievements and the person who you are. Dr. Mark Noel Caban, Mabruk. So now I'm going to pass the baton to Jal, my colleague.
Thanks, Bob.
Welcome.
Tough act to follow. All right, I'd like to present Dr. Bobby Mcdonald. Bobby would like to acknowledge her husband, Rob, her 4 children, Sadie, Princess, Eve, and Ramsey, and Ann Wexler, as well as Roy and Cindy McDonald, her big brothers, David and Ronnie, and big sister, Evie, friends, extended family, and especially to the memory of her brother, Michael. We'd also both like to thank Irvin Scott, the stellar other member of our committee. So Bobby is one of a kind. She came to us after 20 years of leading a progressive school in Baltimore. All those things that people are talking about today, like knowing the students, involving the community, mobilizing for racial equity, Bobby's been doing that her whole career. She's a trendsetter. She was doing all of those things before they were cool. I can remember I was teaching a class on 21st century school systems. We were doing an exercise around theory of action, like Kathy talked about, with lots of if-thens and driver diagrams and other fancy tools that you learn in graduate school. What if, Bobby asked, what if we loved the children? So profound, so moving, so essential. What if every decision we made in public education, from how to handle tricky questions of discipline to how to respond to the pandemic, started from that simple question? What if we loved the children? Another thing that Bobby understands in her bones is what we in fancy ed school speak call symmetry. Namely, that the kind of community you create among the adults needs to parallel the ones we want for kids. If adults don't find purpose, meaning, and joy in their work, they are unlikely to be able to do the same for students. For a year, Bobby helped us with our Deeper Learning Dozen, a group of 12 districts that come together 3 times a year to mobilize for deeper learning. And Bobby really helped us to cultivate that community of adults. Most memorably when she suggested that everyone bring their instruments to a convening, and we had a jam session that went on long into the evening. People who were wearing shirts and ties during the day, by the end of the day, you would really never look at them the same after listening to them play late into the evening. What if, she seemed to be saying, what if we loved the adults? Would that be a good starting point for everything else we're trying to do? This past year, she's been working at Education Reimagined. There, she's been pursuing an audacious goal Technically, I think her project was something like a systematic approach to reimagining public education. But I think of it more like, what if we organized all of public education the Bobby Mcdonald way? Less control, more student choice, fewer bells, more student agency, fewer rules, more relationships, less batch processing, more getting to know each student and family, less standardization, more helping each student find the unique path that helps him or her grow and thrive. I know this is a cliche, but I really did learn more from Bobby than she learned from me. I can't wait for the rest of the world to have more of the Bobby Mcdonald experience. Congratulations, Dr. Bobby Mcdonald. So let me pass it to Margarita Ruiz to talk about Tom Melichewski.
Thank you, Jal. It is my pleasure to honor Tom Melichewski, who in turn would like to thank his wife, Sarah, his children, McKenna, Olivia, Jocelyn, and Benjamin, and his parents, Jane and Bill, and his grandmother, Jean, who are all here joining us today. Great family day. I had the pleasure to work with Tom in my previous role as the superintendent of the Salem Public Schools, where he was working as a principal. Tom was the kind of school leader that knew the name of every child in his building, had very strong connections with his staff, and he was a leader among principals. He was a mentor, and not only that, but he always made the most out of our coaching sessions. Although my heart was a little broken when he decided to move on to do his EDLD program here at Harvard, I knew that this was going to be an amazing opportunity for him, where he was going to put those skills in action and expand his leadership. And I knew he was going to achieve amazing things. Tom did his residency with my good friend, Maurice Edouard Vincent, in the Medford Public Schools. And no surprise, he immersed himself in the work there, paying close attention to the role that school leaders play in driving the academic agenda of the district, very much in the same way that he had done in Salem. I was not surprised by the fact that his strategic project in Medford was around building a district-wide strategy to support the growth and development of principals as instructional leaders. Through his work in Medford, the district now has a way of continually improving the practice of principals through one-to-one coaching, principal group sessions, and also supports for their supervisors. And this work had amazing impact in Medford. Let me quote what one of the principals said about these sessions that they attended. For me personally, the chance to connect with colleagues and brainstorm solutions to common problems has been invaluable. Administrators often feel isolated. A sense of identity with a larger group that is united in purpose is a powerful thing. And that was the impact that Tom had, an amazing principal impacting the practice of other principals. In his final reflection in his capstone, Tom wrote, "Now is not the time to approach principal professional development through a pure operational lens or top-down approach. Now is the time for districts to equip principals with what they need to approach the unknowns of the post-pandemic world." He argues that it is through coaching, collaboration, and support that school leaders do their best work leading for academic excellence. And those are the attributes that really define Tom Melichewski as a leader. Tom recently reminded me that in one of our one-to-one meetings when I was superintendent, I may have said to him, hang in there for a little bit longer, because in a few years from now, you are going to become a superintendent. Well, he is doing just that. Because come July 1st, Tom will have the awesome opportunity to lead a district as the incoming superintendent of the Reading Public Schools. Way to go, Tom. I am infinitely proud of you. And I can't wait to follow your work and to see the impact that you're going to have for the children of Reading. Felicidades. Congratulations, Dr. Tom Milazzewski. And with that, I pass it on to Paul Rebel, who will honor Tim Moriarty.
Thank you, Margarita. I'm honored to present Tim Moriarty, who's joined today by his parents, Teresa and David, members of his beloved extended family, to whom he's deeply grateful. Oops, I apologize for that. I'm sorry. His partner, Catherine, and his mentor, Dr. Gerald Paste. Tim has had an eye-opening, sometimes eye-popping EDLD experience. He began life in a small rural town in central Massachusetts, spent nearly a decade teaching and leading in a vocational school, and then took a leap out of that relatively insular world to Harvard. Here's how he describes landing at the end of his residency. I am now on the other side of a 3-year journey, which is only the beginning toward leading for equity. Tim is an eager learner, the embodiment of the growth mindset, someone who truly squeezed every ounce out of the privilege of the EDLD experience. Like many of us, when confronted with a major challenge in a completely new setting, he felt a little imposter syndrome, feeling like he was often catching up. Yet he approached challenges with humility, humor, endearing interpersonal skills, and appreciation for the opportunity. His residency was the perfect culmination of the EDLD experience, bringing together his past, present, and future worlds in the resolution of a live state policy dilemma focused on equity. Tim worked at the Massachusetts Department of Education on preparing a proposal for more equitable admissions policies for the Commonwealth's increasingly racially imbalanced career technical schools. This situated Tim right in the middle of a state agency pressing for immediate results in balancing the admissions process, and a field of which Tim had only recently been a member that had differing perspectives and some resistance to the commissioner's push for change. Tim's very public, controversial project required political acuity, much listening, political savvy, and courage to advance a set of policies that would ensure fairness while taking into account legitimate considerations raised by the field. Working with his skillful sponsors at DESE, Tim found a way to thread the needle, and the DESE proposal recently received initial approval from the state board. This is a major policy victory for the department, our students, the field, and for Tim. Incredible achievement with huge resonance in the real world. Tim is a real world guy. He's just the kind of pragmatic but imaginative leader we need to help us as a society find the middle in a nation torn apart by extremism. Tim's is a middle with real principles, with equity at the center, coupled with empathy and understanding of the good faith of folks from differing perspectives. Tim has long been driven by the values he learned from family and community. At Harvard, his eyes have been open to the pernicious reach of systemic racism, white privilege, and other forms of inequity. He has come to grips with who he is and what his role can be in creating better, fairer systems for all children. Tim's experience has also reinforced his belief that effectiveness as a leader is all about building relationships. This is one of Tim's great strengths. Finally, and importantly, Tim entitles his capstone, Equity is Non-Negotiable. Here's his conclusion. Leading for equity is at my core, and I will continue to center my future work, regardless of role or location, on identifying and strategically dismantling barriers for the communities I serve. As his advisor and someone who shares Tim's love of tennis, I'd say, Tim, you've aced EDLD. I wish you all the best as you move forward with increased strength to change our education world. Congratulations, Tim. And now I'll bring on Marty West to introduce Brian Pick.
Thank you, Paul. On behalf of my fellow committee members, Jen Cheatham and Shirley Chavarria, it's a great honor to present to you Brian Pick. Brian would like to acknowledge a wide range of people who have supported him in reaching today's milestone. His former colleagues in San Jose, Oakland, and Washington, D.C., especially David Silver and Kaya Henderson. Shirley and the entire teaching and learning leadership team at the Chicago Public Schools, where he did his residency. His mom, Carol, his brothers, Eric and Kevin, and his fiancee, Brenton, all of whom are watching today. Across his educational career, and of course, each and every member of the fantastic C9 cohort. The unifying theme of Bryan's career, first as a teacher and then as a district leader, is the potential of high-quality instruction to transform student experiences and student outcomes. He came to the EDLD program with significant experience leading system-level change, most notably in DC, where he spearheaded a major effort to improve the quality of instruction in our nation's capital. The well-documented success of that effort led many school districts and nonprofit organizations to seek Bryan's counsel even before he arrived on our campus. For his residency, Bryan oversaw the strategic planning process for the Office of Teaching and Learning within Chicago Public Schools, the nation's third largest school district. Bryan's capstone quotes Dwight Eisenhower's aphorism that while plans are nothing, planning is everything. And his work at CPS demonstrates how taking planning seriously is a powerful tool for generating coherence or a shared understanding of the purpose and nature of a school district's work. It also shows that this can be the case even when the person leading the planning effort is an outsider who never had a chance to set foot within the central office. I've joked with Bryan that he's the definition of a low maintenance advisee. Whenever we'd meet, I'd find that I had little to add to his well thought out plans for the weeks and months ahead. And I certainly learned as much from him during our conversations as he did from me. Bryan combines a quiet self-confidence with a constant learning stance, a unique combination that I believe has played a key role in his success and impact to date, and I know will lead to even greater success and impact going forward. I look forward to continuing to learn from him and his work for years to come. So it gives me great joy to present for the first time, Dr. Bryan Pick. Bryan, congratulations on all that you've accomplished. We're very fortunate to be able to claim you as a graduate. And let me pass along the baton to Monica Higgins to speak about Jocelyn Rodriguez.
Thanks, Marty. I am honored to have the opportunity to celebrate Jocelyn Rodriguez along with her committee members, Irvin Scott and Angela Jackson of New Profit, and all of us here at Harvard Graduate School of Education. And on this call today, we celebrate you. Jocelyn thanks her parents, Jose and Ana Rodriguez, her siblings, in-laws, and 13 nieces and nephews, family members from the Rodriguez and Perez families, New Profit colleagues, C9, professors, staff, and her significant other, Horace. So how to describe Jocelyn? Let's start with her words. Someone who grew up in a mixed status family with limited financial means, a daughter of immigrants, a first-generation student, the first in her family to earn a doctorate. She also has 24 aunts and uncles and over 170 cousins. And so it's not surprising that Jocelyn believes deeply that this doctorate was a collective effort. I'm sure this is true, but also just for a moment, let's consider the ways in which Jocelyn has led collective efforts for others. For Jocelyn's residency, she worked for a venture firm, New Profit, where she designed and implemented a worker advisory board to enable the voices of workers to be heard. And why was this important? Well, as Jocelyn wrote in her capstone, today the federal job training and workforce development system is not nearly big, bold, and transformative enough to meet the interlocking challenges and systemic racism we face across society. Well, just this past month, Jocelyn's work made it all the way to the Biden administration. Yes, collective work can be bold, just like Jocelyn. The theme of dismantling inequitable systems through collective effort has been a theme for Jocelyn for a long time. In her application to Harvard, she wrote, "We all know children don't learn in isolation. Interdisciplinary teams of doctors, social workers, and real estate investors working in the community should work with educators to focus on the needs of the whole child." And as one of her recommenders wrote, Jocelyn is that linchpin that connects the organization to citywide, statewide, and national groups. And she does so with thoughtfulness and leadership that increases the capacity of all involved. We saw the thoughtfulness and leadership during the capstone defense presentations. I wish I could share my screenshot with you, but I just can't because then I need the permission of everyone in that picture. So imagine this. A Thenon colleague is presenting. Committee members are listening intently, and yet there is one face that shines through on that screen. It's actually Jocelyn's. She is listening, yes, but also affirming her colleague, respecting her colleague, and recognizing that person's brilliance. This is the thoughtful leader I will remember, the person who knows when to lead that collective effort from the front, from the side, or from the back. Jocelyn, we are so very happy for you today. You've taught us a tremendous amount, not just about the why of collective effort, but about the messy, complex, difficult how of collective effort. Congratulations, Dr. Jocelyn Rodriguez. And now it is my pleasure to pass the baton over to my amazing colleague, Carrie Conaway, who will celebrate Linda Rosenberg.
Thank you so much, Monica. I am so delighted to have the honor of celebrating Linda today. Linda, on your behalf, I'd like to thank your advisor and capstone committee chair, Marty West, your parents, Mark and Janet, your siblings, Laura, Jason, Jake, and Jenny, and your partner, Matt, for supporting your journey here at HGSE. Linda, if I had to pick 3 words to describe you, they would be listener, learner, and leader. And I want to tell the rest of you why. As a listener, Linda cares deeply about helping people, and one big way she does this is by being an excellent listener. As my research assistant and teaching fellow, she listened really carefully to the problems I was trying to solve, whether it was creating authentic case examples for my book or designing the syllabus and activities for my new courses. She asked me questions and she listened again. And then she helped me move forward, but only after being sure that she was helping me solve my problem. As a learner, Linda brings a learner orientation to everything she does. She really impressed me when we first met by saying that she'd come to my job talk the prior spring. And I thought to myself, what EDLD student would take time out of their schedule to come to a job talk of some nerdy researcher from a state agency? Well, it's one who's a learner, one who wants to know more about how research and data work happens in state agencies, and she saw a chance to learn from someone in that role. She also empathizes with other learners, which made her a great teaching fellow. I could count on Linda to help me figure out how to improve my instruction and to bring a human element to the course. Her epic Silly Glasses collection brought a much needed dose of humor to the days right after instruction went online last spring. As a leader, Linda did her 3rd-year residency in the Highline schools, which are just outside of Seattle. And her capstone project focused on implementing standards-based grading. One of my favorite parts of her project was how she realized that the district's gradebook tool was a major lever for pushing her standards-based grading reform. And she actually got the instructional and technology teams to agree to default to standards-based grading in the gradebook rather than traditional grades. Teachers could still issue traditional grades if they wanted, but Linda set up the system to make it easier to use standards-based grading and make it harder to use the older way that they prefer to change. She recognized an opportunity, she did her homework, and she enlisted both people and systems to support the change she wanted to make. And if that isn't the definition of leadership, I don't know what is. On a personal note, I know I am a better educator because of what I've learned from Linda. And I am so excited to see what happens when we unleash her on an entire school district instead of one novice professor. Port Townsend is incredibly lucky to have you. Congratulations, Dr. Rosenberg, on your many accomplishments. Please keep listening, learning, and leading, and I cannot wait to see what comes next. Please join me in congratulating Linda. And now I'm passing it off to John Mehta.
Thanks, Carrie. It's my honor to present Dr. Michelle Rudy. Michelle would like to thank her mother, Judith Rudy, who's no longer living, but is surely with us today. She would like to thank her father, Robert Rudy, who took care of her precious daughter, Camila Yasmin, who we can see right there smiling at us. We would both like to thank Liz City, whose guidance and advice this year was incredibly valuable. Michelle is an organizer by trade, nature, and personal force. Like many of us, she sees injustice in the world. Unlike many of us, she mobilizes power to change those conditions. Before she even came to Harvard, Michelle had accomplished more in her first 3 decades than most of us will accomplish in a lifetime. Remember DACA, the law that protected 1.7 million undocumented young people from being deported? That was Michelle. Not Michelle by herself. But Michelle was a key organizer of that movement, mobilizing thousands of immigrants and allies to fight for their rightful place in our nation. I think this is a missing lens in our educational world. There's a lot about pedagogy and organizational alignment and change, but not as much as there needs to be about power and politics. Michelle really taught me and a number of our students about the importance of these things. For example, we were considering in class a case of the Texas School Board banning the use of 21st century skills in schools. Say that again, a Texas School Board that was banning the use of 21st century skills in schools. How might we address that, I asked. Students offered all sorts of responses about the state of partisanship in our nation, underlying racial bias, and more. And then Michelle said, how many people are on that board? 7. How many voted for that ban? 5. And it takes a majority, she asked? Yes. So there are 2 people we need to flip? Yes. Well then, she said, I would ask what those folks need and want, whether they sit in vulnerable seats, how high is this on their agenda, how consistent is it with what their constituents want? All of a sudden, what had seemed insurmountable, changing the state of Texas, was down to 2 board members who needed to be flipped. The adjectives that come to mind when I think of Michelle are resilient, inquisitive, collaborative, and fiercely determined. She is a beautiful mix of humility and interest in what she doesn't know and commitment to fighting for what she believes in. This year, she worked with an organization named Aliento to fight for the rights of immigrant students in Arizona. Again, she took an organizing approach, greatly extending the capacity of this small organization by mobilizing students across many schools to fight for change. I can't wait to see what Michelle does next. I can only hope that she mobilizes her many talents to build a movement for the equivalent of DACA in education, a Bill of Rights for immigrant students that allow them not only to stay in the country, but to get the kind of education that would allow them to thrive. I can't think of anyone more likely to lead such a movement. Congratulations, Dr. Michelle Rudy. And now I'm going to pass it to Paul Revel to talk about another of my favorite people, Sarah Tucker.
Thank you, Joel. It's my honor to present Sarah Tucker, who's joined today by her beloved husband, William, and her mother and devoted family of multiple generations. Here's a taste of her gratitude to family from her capstone dedication. To my grandparents, who were and are the epitome of strength, you drank from colored-only water fountains. You were forced to enter in through the back door. You picked cotton with blood-stained hands, yet you defied odds. This type of opportunity was unavailable to you, but you always believed in me. Your prayers carried me, your hard work and encouragement ushered in a new song. You sowed in me the seeds of faith, wisdom, joy, and discipline. The harvest is yours. As you can see, Sarah's a writer. I was lucky to be Sarah's advisor, her teacher in a course, and someone privileged to travel with her on her EDLD journey. The best part was getting to know her, which was a bit like peeling an onion. She initially presents with quiet power as a deeply serious, reflective, equity-focused educator and Black woman. And she is all of those things. She introduced herself in this way. As a Black American woman, I have seen both the highs and lows of America's education system. This work is personal to me. I do this work to ensure that all of America's children, regardless of background, have access to the life-changing catalyst of a strong education. Before EDLD, she had a successful career as a teacher, school leader, and school designer in places like Atlanta, Boston, and New Haven. She came to Harvard with serious purpose to strengthen her skills, extend her knowledge, and find her place as an education leader. But there's much more to Sarah than simply being a rising education star. Peel back the onion and you find an adventurer. She and William spent a whole year exploring the world, a kind of joyous sabbatical. Here's what Sarah says in her capstone about her non-business side. Quote, I embrace my Blackness. I wear shirts that say things like, hella Black, hella proud, and God is Black and HBCUs are heaven, unquote. I love to dress up, and there's no such thing as being overdressed. I switch up my hair frequently. I embrace my womanhood and feminine power. Sarah's pandemic residency required the psychological skills embodied in her sponsoring organization's name, Transcend. Sarah was charged with remotely leading an effort to spread an innovative whole child school model featuring SEL and trauma sensitivity. Her work centered the well-being of both students and teachers. She strived to help leaders create schools that ooze love and work for 100% of students, and she means 100%. Sarah's work required her to grapple with adaptive leadership, authority, influence, and expectations while balancing the pressure for progress with the frustrations of COVID restraints. It positioned her, sometimes uncomfortably, to be the one to raise issues of race in a rapidly diversifying organization. She did a superb job of engineering a successful rollout plan for this initiative and received the ultimate employer endorsement. She will soon be joining the permanent staff at Transcend to carry her work forward. Sarah gave a lucid, emotionally moving capstone presentation. She began signaling her why by describing a former student who said to her, "School is where I learned to be a prisoner. It taught me where I belonged." Sarah dares to imagine a radically different kind of empowering, positively constructive education. She's on a mission to make that kind of schooling the rule, not the exception. Sarah introduced her capstone with one of her grandmother's favorite songs entitled, "This is the Day." This is your day, Sarah. Let me conclude by addressing a slightly retouched version of the chorus to you. This is the day that the Lord has made, that the Lord has made. You should rejoice and be very glad in it. Congratulations, Sarah. And now I will bring on one more time Liz City, in this case to introduce Jamal Williams.
Thank you, Paul. I am delighted to have 3 whole minutes to honor Jamal because there is absolutely no other circumstance under which he would tolerate being publicly appreciated for so long. Jamal is about to graduate with his doctorate from Harvard, and I am still not sure he knows how amazing he is. 3 people who know him well and to whom he extends his gratitude for their support are his wife, Erin, his mother, Cookie, and his mother-in-law, Adrienne. Mariah Estelle, Jamal's brilliant, beautiful daughter, supported Jamal with smiles, laughter, and joy, as well as some great Kamala Harris impersonations. Jamal was successful in transforming a school in Los Angeles that needed and responded to his leadership and to his fierce belief in the youth he served. Here are some of the words used to describe Jamal before he came to Harvard: patient, calm, diplomatic, listener, collaborator, intelligence, professionalism, dedication, work ethic, creativity, and humility. These all were and are accurate. The one we've been maybe trying to work on a bit is that last one, humility. And by work on, I mean less humble. At Harvard, Jamal applied his creativity, intelligence, and collaboration to start the Lotus Strategy Group along with his classmates, Tim and Eric. He returned to his educator roots with Avid, where he served in residency, striving to create a principal support network. And amazingly enough, he persuaded overwhelmed principals to attend virtual events that he adapted to their needs. Jamal, since I won't be able to persuade you to be even a smidge less humble, I offer some other thoughts. One can be humble and confident at the same time. That part of you that knows you have something to offer is right, as is that part of you that knows you have much to learn. We all do, and admitting it is what opens up a learning space for ourselves and others. You are right that you can succeed and fail at the same time, that you can be urgent and patient, that you can believe in possibility and be wholly pragmatic. You are right to believe boundlessly in youth and to be invested, but more impatient with adults. You are right that principals need support and may not be able to accept it. Leadership is about holding these multiple truths, letting any dissonance be a reflection of the world, not of you. Near as I can tell, the only thing you have been wrong about since you applied to Harvard is this one sentence you wrote in your admissions essay, and I quote, "All the tools I need to be successful are in one place at Harvard University," end quote. All the tools are inside you, Jamal. If we can take credit for anything, it is, I hope, in helping you believe that. When you laugh, we join in your joy, and when you ache, we join in your pain. When you lift your voice, when you lead, we are all better for it. May your journey be blessed and full of the light you bring. Congratulations, Jamal. And with that, it is my honor and privilege to turn it back over to the hardworking, caring, ever focused on learners, Director of the EDLD program, Dr. Drew Eccleston.
Thank you, Liz, and to all the HGSE faculty and colleagues and mentors who spoke today on behalf of our amazing students. The next part of our segment is a tradition in the EDLD program at this celebration event, where we allow the cohort an opportunity to share something with our community. And the cohort has nominated Kentaro Iwasaki to speak on behalf of the group. So I introduce Kentaro to speak and to share some reflections and thoughts and commentary on behalf of the cohort.
Thank you so much, Drew, and thank you to C9. What an incredible honor to be here before you. So thank you. So I get to speak about our amazing cohort, see shine, see fine, see all the time, C9. And so while yes, we are here to celebrate these 25 incredible people, we do start by thanking all of you, our families, our communities, our ancestors, with these slides. We joyfully acknowledge that this is all of our celebration. By naming this reality, we counter the dominant cultural paradigm, the white dominant cultural paradigm of rugged individualism, that we have gotten here by lifting ourselves up by our own bootstraps. No, we are here because of you, and we thank you. My brother, the Reverend Dr. Stephen Chambers, says this: we come from kings and queens, and my ancestors came across the Middle Passage and survived. And this shows I am resilient in my DNA. We celebrate this. We celebrate all of you. We celebrate our ancestors, our families, our communities in this space. So please join me right now as we look at all of the ancestors, family, community that have brought us here. We celebrate you. So first, I want to celebrate that which you might all be able to see, this accomplished group of 25. And I could go through accolades of each one, but to just name a few, some have been named superintendents, chief equity, social justice officers. We've been written up in Harvard newsletters for innovation, launched consulting companies. Our work's been written up in the New York Times, and then we get written up in the Harvard Gazette. We co-authored frameworks and books. We're on some high-powered boards. We got job offers from our residency sites like Transcend and EdTrust. I want to celebrate all the more, though, the work that might be less seen and less visible, that perhaps is more impactful and more profound and deep, the work in us. You know, I've been reflecting a lot about this problem we see in education, this problem of silos, that the work we do is just disconnected. And I have to think fundamentally, where does this come from? I think this problem of silos in education comes from us living these disconnected lives individually and with one another. And I'm guilty of this. I set up these artificial boundaries of my personal life, my professional life, my relational life, as if they don't all bleed into each other. They do bleed into each other, into just life. And so one thing EDLD really seeks us out is to provide this really deep and at times uncomfortable look at ourselves and at life. I remember our first year talking to my executive coach from our program, Bill Hodgetts, and telling him, Bill, I feel really foolish as a 45-year-old asking the question my high school students would ask, who am I? And Bill's response to me was, Kentaro, that is the eternal question. So my cohort mates and I have taken a look and have taken a deep dive to examine ourselves, our triggers, our biases, our blind spots, our big and hidden assumptions about how the world works, how people work, how we work. And we tested these assumptions so that we could emerge more grounded in who we are and more connected in ourselves. And EDLD pushed us here with this question: if we enter this fragmented, disconnected education system just as fragmented and disconnected in ourselves, Won't we just perpetuate and exacerbate this problem of silos and disconnection? So one potential hope we can offer is to enter into the system differently, to offer an alternative of living and how we approach ourselves, others, and the larger system in a more connected and grounded way. And this work, this experiment towards deep connection continues in our cohort among the 25 of us. Can we live this out amongst ourselves? Can we work out the issues of racial injustice, gender inequality, class divisions that we see mirrored in the larger society and education system? Can we deal with those things amongst the 25 of us? And if we as 25 leaders in education can't work this out amongst ourselves, I ask you, what hope is there for the larger education system to ever work this out? And you know what this entails to work it out? Well, one thing is celebrating each other, celebrating engagements, weddings, births, successful matches on dating apps, summer fellowships, residency successes, job offers, moves around the country. And it also meant journeying with one another in the depths of pain when our communities, disproportionately Black and Brown communities, and our loved ones suffer and pass from COVID-19, when our families suffer from food and housing insecurity, when families are torn apart due to immigration policy, we mourn and we advocate. And do you know what else this looks like? It looks like our brother, Dr. Jamal Williams, saying early on in our cohort experience, he wants to know he can fail and mess up big time in front of us rather than failing and messing up in front of the school board. It looks like having a conversation with our brother, Dr. Tim Moriarty, that he, as a white man, will have an audience with white people that I will never have. And as a result, he has a greater level of responsibility. It means working out in our teams issues like mansplaining, white-splaining, white mansplaining, when we overlook our Latina and Black sisters' contributions. It means our cohort coming together to talk about the killings of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Ahmaud Arbery, and the impact on us and the implications for how we live and show up and go about the work, how and if we have done the work in ourselves and in our cohort, so that we can actually bring something of substance to this grieving world and broken education system. It means being in it with each other when we stumble, when we hurt each other, when we mess up, when we offend, when we laugh and joke and go out for happy hour at Felipe's. And in all of this, we learn. And as my sister, Dr. Shahara Jackson says, we extend to each other the grace to grow. So now we go back into the education sector, much more equipped than when we came to the EDLD program. And this slide that I would like to share with you, this is really appropriate. This is Lisa Leahy, and she's retiring, so we want to honor you, Lisa. And also this process you led us through, transforming ourselves to transform the sector. So thank you, Lisa, because this really describes what we've gratefully experienced. And so now I come back full circle to where I started, that yes, this is a celebration of us, but it's all the more of you. I invite you into the hard work we have before us. There's so much work to do. We need you. We need one another in this. We need you to take on this work of transformation with us and alongside us, starting with ourselves, so we can hold each other up and we can offer hope and what is possible, that lives can be changed and transformed, that we do not need to put up with an education system that serves only a few, and that, as my faith tradition teaches, that we can challenge what we see, that everything around us is upside down and inverted, that what our world calls deficit is actually asset, that those who grasp onto status will be toppled, that service and compassion is power and love unleashed. Let's join together in bringing about this new reality. Congratulations, C9. I love you. Now I turn it back over to Drew for closing remarks.
Thank you, Kentaro. In so many ways, you captured the spirit of C9 as I've had opportunities to watch the group. Those were beautiful remarks and much appreciated by everyone in the audience. So thank you. I wanted to just spend a few moments returning to my opening remarks Bryan Pick had an opportunity to help me frame these remarks, because I said that you'd hear about 3 key ideas, that you'd hear about impact, you'd hear about commitment to leading for anti-racist practice, and that you'd hear a story about collaboration. And so many of the stories that we heard from C9 in terms of their work in residency, their work before they came to EDLD, the work that they will do post EDLD, you continue to hear harkening back to these themes of impact, of leading for anti-racist practice, and for collaboration and inclusion. And so I thank you all who have taken time today to honor our amazing graduates. Tomorrow, we will be rooting for you as your degrees are conferred. And more importantly, we'll be rooting for you as you go out into practice and lead for our communities, for our families, and most importantly, for our students. The moment is now, and in so many ways, our communities, our families, and our children deserve leaders like all of you. And I'm inspired, and I'm humbled, and I'm so excited that people like you are going out there and going to create opportunities, access, and increase opportunities, access, and outcomes for all the students across the state. So congratulations. Know that we're rooting for you tomorrow, and know that we'll be following your career. And if you ever need anything, please do continue to reach out to us. We'll be cheering you on here from Cambridge. So congratulations, everyone, and have a wonderful day tomorrow. You've earned it. Congratulations.